to the cloud. Okay. So in this meeting, we'll try to structure the work and if we can divide it. And we now have like 3 sections, and of these 3 sections, we potentially would have to find how we would want to divide, because that's so the problem space, I'd say the core is the core of this paper, and there's a lot of content that potentially could be framed as problems from here, from the AI lifecycle to persona and user story mapping. And yeah, so initially, because I don't think we yet have all the picture on all the challenges, so we potentially might have to extract those and then have each of us focus on grounding and adding metadata and descriptions and describing the problems that we add. And maybe also we could merge the problems with the solution in that we define the problem, we describe it, and then we add potential remediations, because I think solution is a strong word, potential remediations to each. But we have to define those. So I guess I don't think we're there yet in defining all of the problems that we want to be solving. And the framing will come later, but for the framing, this is where we can divide and conquer, I would say, Marlo. Or what do you think?
Yeah, I think dividing and conquering is the way to go. I'm also realizing we don't have a cooling section, which is a different thing.
Sorry, what section? I couldn't hear.
Cooling.
Cooling. Okay. But that's
a different problem. Anyways.
Yeah. So I guess the concern now, and maybe so we have to do some, first of all, in the foundation, we probably want to extract all the problems here, and then these problems will become sections of the document, and describing them and framing them will be the divide and conquer task. So I could take one challenge, you could take another challenge, and Krishna and Yuan could take other challenges, but we would have to figure out the core problems here, and again, some of those are already described in the context of this, of here in the life cycle and the user story mapping, but we'd have to extract them here. So, or do you have other ideas for how you want to write this section? Because I think this is the section where we divide and conquer.
I think this is a good one to divide and conquer. The other one I was looking at was the systems and the personas. Personas are pretty, yeah, because we haven't done them. We have suggested personas.
Yeah, suggestion personas. Yes, this needs to be flushed out. Yeah, I mean, or referenced from other places. I don't think we have. So we have some places describing some of the personas, but I think it makes sense to add them either as in the glossary of this paper or as describe them here. And so yes, we will need to flush out the definition of these personas. So who wants to take that? Maybe let's do it this way. Who wants to take this task?
I would like to actually first go through the draft ones, and probably if it is fine, I can add a few of the edits throughout. If that is okay. Probably I'm less familiar than others in this call about the current version of the draft, so it makes sense for me to go through it once completely and see if there are any perspectives, inputs that I can add. And maybe I'm planning in the next week session, I can see where I can actually fit in terms of contributing more belonging to one of these 3 main modules.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense, Krishna. I think we all have to be comfortable with the skeleton of the paper before. So this here basically we all should be comfortable with the structure. We might, as I said, there potentially might be changes in how we write these two sections, maybe merge them, and that will probably become apparent in how we write them. So either we're describing the problem and describing next to it the solution, or have a separate section for that. I think both approaches make sense, but at least we should all be comfortable with the structure of this. And if we're not, we should be discussing that before we divide the work.
Sure. And also one more query I have, a follow-up query is, what is the level of depth we would like to cover in terms of the content? Do we have any idea about it?
I would say if you can ground any argument you make in something tangible, that would be great. But I don't necessarily think, because if we're talking about problems, we will not be writing an whole papers on each challenge. We have to tackle the challenge, raise awareness about it, identify state-of-the-art approaches to approach that challenge. And basically the idea is to bring awareness of how bad that challenge is and not really invent a new way of solving it. That would be my personal opinion on this. I don't know if Marlo or Yuan or Vivek, you have other ideas.
I think that makes sense. And calling off, I think I may spend part of this week fleshing out the types of systems, metrics and operational concerns, because we have like cursory stuff there. But I do think that's a good question of how deep to go. We do want to make sure we don't go too far, because otherwise we're never going to publish this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
sounds good. Yeah.
And
Sure.
yeah, and go ahead. Go ahead, Yuan.
Nothing. I just like agree with the approach, and yeah, no further comment.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, if one other thing that I think we had the problem was for like, so that there's another paper we're writing or like we're trying to write this a scheduling like paper, and but I think it's not just about the challenges, but also how the challenges make sense in the broader scope of the paper, right? So, for each challenge, each challenge addresses a piece of the picture, and we agreed that the picture is, in that case, is the AI life cycle, grounded by the types of systems that we are looking to address. So I think, having and describing the challenges in that context would also help, not just having a laundry list of things that people would have trouble with, but also like how practical they are in fitting into the life cycle. Okay. So it sounds like folks agree on the current structure of this paper. Some of the challenges, let's see. So we have a very high level stuff here. I think we'll have to go deeper into or brainstorm. If we are all not comfortable yet and want to review the paper, that's good. But I think, we probably will have to start brainstorming on this section soon if we want to address or cover the deadlines that we discussed about, which is, I think we wanted to say end of September, having a draft of sorts. Yeah.
Also, how detailed do you want the challenges to be? Because even for one particular one, it can be really detailed, right?
Yeah.
And they have to be related to sustainability, right?
Yeah, so I'm writing another paper, and there, so I've just put the format here, challenge 1. It's basically definition, and then potential, or well, yeah, I would say, because the other paper, I'm trying to map to what I'm doing the other paper, but they were not challenges, they were dimensions. So here we describe the challenge, and if we want, like, briefly, and then existing work tackling the challenge, and potential remediation if we want to merge with potential remediation. And so these could be, like, here, this depends on how much effort you want to spend, but I would say this is the framework. And there, if we follow this approach, then we probably don't need this second section here. And this would be like problem and solution spaces next to each other. So here's the challenge, here's what it means, here's what other folks have been doing, or have been describing it, and here's existing solutions to this challenge or remediations. That's one template that I could suggest.
One thing we discussed previously is to be more like technology agnostic, right?
Yes, exactly. And that
So
nothing here is technology specific. So
okay, so
this,
the existing work here should be something generic, like not mentioning specific technologies, right?
yeah, I
Okay.
would say this is how others have viewed this problem, what are existing. I don't want to say research, because we're not writing a research paper, but state of the art, like what exists today, looking at it. We don't have to go into tools and solutions to that, but really approaches, and maybe we can merge these two. Then we'd have to be very specific about the definition and articulate it very well, or the description. So that could be the description instead of the definition. Description of the challenge. Right. What did others write about it? It's just a very casual way of describing it. Just, yeah, state of the art. Right. And then, yeah. And then potential remediations here is how you would solve it, but you don't have. So for example, I will give you an example on the solution space that I added here. This is an example of, so I don't say, so you could have, for example, tools like confidential containers, confidential computing, that make use of not parameter efficiency, they're Homer. No, did I edit it? Investing research, encryption. Okay. Parameter efficient fine tuning. There's a ton of other things that implement. There's a lot of solutions out there that make use of parameter efficient fine tuning, but not necessarily mentioning the solution. It's an approach of how to solve the problem, or how to tackle it, in a sense. And this was not the example that I wanted to discuss, but it's an example. And then there's techniques like how do you train the model in a way that helps you reduce energy consumption. So you can use something like continual learning, and then there's a reference about that in the paper. This is a technique and approach. It's not a tool or an implementation. So I'm not saying use this CNCF project. I'm saying use this technique. There might be a ton of other projects in the space that make use of that technique and implement it. We're not discussing those in particular. If we want, that's okay, without mentioning vendors and so on, but this is what I meant by solutions. Does that make sense, Yuan?
Yeah. Thanks.
You're welcome. Yeah, so if this is, again, this is this is just I'll just make this like, yeah, so as a comment for people to. Yeah, so I would say we have two major tasks now. We have finalizing this and basically going through those. And going through here means that we will need to high level articulate the challenges, and then each of us can go and pick one or more and follow the template that we agree upon, not necessarily this one, but any template for describing a challenge and how to approach it. Does that make sense?
Yes, what's the template?
The template is that I'm suggesting here is the challenge here. Then maybe this is to yeah, the challenge, description of it. Why is it a challenge? What does it mean? What did other do to define it, solve it? Techniques, approaches, which could also be merged with potential remediation. But if here it could be like existing, this person wrote about this challenge, this person wrote about this challenge. We've seen some numbers describing how bad this challenge is. And then here's some potential approaches or techniques that can be used. And if we would add actually tools, we would have implementations here. If this is if we would add tools. So here, tool 1, tool 2, and so on. Here's like technique 1, technique 2, right? And yeah, that would be the template I propose. But this again, I don't know if we want to include it. We can discuss that. And this could be like in the because we're it could be tools that has been implemented within the CNCF context, right, or available. So we don't have to mention vendors here at all. Just if we want to build that in U1.
Are you looking for people to divvy up these high level challenges?
Yeah, so we have to add the challenges here. It doesn't have to be concrete, but what are the challenges that we should be discussing in this paper and how we frame them. So here the description of the challenges could be like and then so here during data preparation, I have this problem or this problem. Okay, you have this problem. So this is, oh, I already have another. Did I add something here? Okay, so here I am also repeating myself. In the AI lifecycle, we could have the challenges faced described here and solutions and remediations. That's another format. So we'd have to go through the life cycle, each piece of the life cycle. What are the sustainability challenges as part of that life cycle? How do we frame them in the context of the systems and the personas that we have? And what other approaches and solutions and remediations existing today? Let me add the other format as well here. So format 2. Yeah, so this could be format. So this even makes this the main section. So here we will be discussing the life cycle because we've added these 3 dimensions. Here we'll be discussing the life cycle, the challenges, and the solutions, or also follow this format so that the challenge would be in the context of each part of the life cycle. And during data prep, this is the problems that we're seeing. This is what other people have seen during data preparation and pre-processing. Here are some potential remediations and techniques that can be followed. And here's this amazing, nice tool that gets us to solve it or use it in production or whatever. That would be my 2 formats I can propose.
Sure. The first one looks simpler.
This one.
No, the first one, format 1.
Okay, format 1. Okay, yeah. I mean, I like it too. That was actually my initial. So as I was like really going through the paper, this is. I think it made sense because it melds in with each stage of the life cycle as we were mapping them. So we map the stage to the persona, to the challenge, to the remediations, all in one place. And then we don't need these 2 sections because that will be our main section. We just jump directly to conclusion and future work because we have already discussed that.
It is bottom of the hour. Do you need to go?
Yeah, I have to go. So I'll drop. Feel free to continue discussing. So how do I switch back host to you?
When you, I think what we do is we end it and we start over again next week and give time for the paper to be reviewed as is. I'll start working on the types of systems section in the meanwhile. Does that make sense? Yeah.
That makes sense. I think this needs to be reviewed, and if people want to pick one format or the other, we can start and then yeah. Cool. Yep. Okay. Thank you everyone for this. Talk to you soon.
Talk to you next week. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.